So for the Saudis, the issue is to see Yemen being controlled by Iran, because it means simply they are surrounded. That's why they're fighting there. The problem is that it's a bloodshed, and no one says much about it.
So Francois, Qatar have been having a rocky relationship with their neighbours recently. How is this affecting the oil trade in the Middle East?
Well, to answer that question, we need to go a little bit back in history. Actually, until 1971, many of these countries, notably in the south, were under the British regime, and in 71, of course, they became free. Now, at that time, there were already a fear in the region that the big Saudi Arabia will control everything. This is what led to the creation of the United Arab Emirates, actually a union of 7 Emirates. At the time, they even asked Qatar and Bahrain, that is not seen on the map, but just next to Qatar, just to join them, but they decided not to. So that was really the first big move in 71. That was before the oil crisis. Then, of course, the oil crisis came in, and the Americans decided to deal with Iran. That has a huge reserve, of course, and the Iranian oil is actually slightly lighter, and light is a good word in the oil business. Of course, 79 was a blow for the Americans, so then they turned to Saudis. And for many years, they were with the Saudis. So that was really the picture. Then, of course, they saw Iraq coming into the picture, and that was a problem, and there were that long Iran-Iraq war, 82 to 88. That was clearly a lot of casualties there. Quite a terrible war with the invasion of Kuwait, and then everybody remembers. So they freed Kuwait, and then it continued with Saudi being an ally, but an ally that sometimes was not so much of an ally in practice. Meanwhile, Qatar was growing, and getting in power. And one of the big moves Qatar did was to say to the Americans, why don't you have a base on our soil? And there is a big US military base in Qatar. So that is just to get the initial picture. Where are we now? We have Saudi being in trouble because Iran is coming back into the picture, and it's coming back very strong. So they're trying to play all the cards they can to keep the control of the oil and of the output. We saw they really made the utmost to reduce the price of oil before it went up again, and now we are at 50, 55. It's still not profitable for them because they have a budget, they need $80, $85 a barrel. And Qatar is annoying because Qatar became free. So they decided, because they thought they had a blessing from the Americans, they could make a big and strong move a few months ago. And this is where we are. So we'll have that. Will we see an impact on oil price? Not so much. Why? Because Qatar actually is not a big player on the oil market. Qatar, we consider the oil reserves of Qatar to be out by, probably in the next 10 years. Qatar is a gas player, natural gas. So no, probably not.
Now, do you think relations between these Gulf nations will somewhat come back to what they were previously in years?
Well, the thing is, the Qatari are there dealing with the gas, and what that crisis forced them to do was to go with the Iranians. And actually, the ties between the Qatari and the Iranians are quite good nowadays, especially because they share the same oil field in the middle of the sea. So that's where we are now. We have that crisis that is there. That will take time before we see a true resolution, because no one wants to lose face. Actually, the very bold movement, the very bold move of the Saudis, and not only the Saudis, actually, is something that is clearly there. But they can't just say, whoops, sorry, we made a mistake. So it will take time before the situation will settle. And as a recent example, we had a fight between the Qatari and Bahrain, again about an oil field between the two of them in the sea. And that took years, although it never developed. So that's pretty much where we are now. We have that situation. I guess we will see, bits of resolution here and there, preferably not too visible, so no one is losing face. And that's probably, how we will go in the near future. But resolution like that, no way, that won't happen.
So my final question is, what's Iran's role in this whole conflict between the Gulf neighbours?
Again, Iran is coming back on the map. It's the largest market opening for now many years, probably the fall of the Berlin Wall. We have 85 million inhabitants keen to buy all sorts of products. So it's a huge market. It's a market that is there, and the role of Qatar had to find a way, because one of the issues with Qatar is to find water, to find food, because everything was coming from Saudi. So what happened is actually the Iranian came to the rescue, because for them it was a huge opportunity. Actually, what the Saudi move did was really opening Qatar to Iran. The Turkish did the same. So actually now the food and the water for Qatar is coming notably from Iran. So for them it's just a blessing, because they are also keen to come back to where they were in the past, i.e. probably the largest regional power.
Well, it was a pleasure, Francois, to have you back in our studios again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be back.
And thank you at home for watching. Don't forget to click back to Dukascopy TV for more interviews like this. Goodbye for now.